And welcome to all of our listeners tuning in on oyeturadio.net. We came on a couple minutes late, so thank you for hanging tight. I want to remind you guys to please subscribe to Soul on it's my YouTube channel because you guys will be able to catch the full episode of tonight's talk with Victor. So again, a reminder, subscribe to Soul on YouTube so you can catch the full episode later this week. As usual, before we get started, I want to do a disclaimer. And that disclaimer is, we're going to talk about some things around mental health topics. And so if you need to step away for a moment, that's totally fine. You can come back later. But I also want to remind you guys that if you are feeling, if you are struggling with depression or anxiety or any kind of substance abuse, there's help. I want to encourage everyone who's listening, all our listeners right now. If you know anyone, there is help out there. We're losing a lot of people nowadays, and so this is really dear to my heart. Again, this show is not therapy, so it's not a substitute for professional treatment. Just a reminder, if any of my listeners are having a crisis or need to talk to someone, remember you can call 911 or dial 988. Now, I would love to introduce my guest, Victor Preciado, council member from Pomona.
Hello.
Hey, Victor.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I know, clap, right? Hi, Victor.
Clap. Your intro, man, it was great.
Yeah,
it's good to hear.
I was telling you, I always get nervous. Oh, we were doing a little thing before.
Yeah.
Before we went on, Victor was teaching me what is it?
Well, I forget what he calls it, but it's like a little warm up. For some of you, I'm taking a speech class right now just to get a little bit better at what I do, and it's like just a shakeout.
Yeah, it reminds me of bilateral movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like shake one foot, shake another foot. It was really cool. We were doing it out there, guys, and
Well, sometimes you get put right on the spot, and you gotta move out those nerves a little.
yeah, exactly. So, anyways, thank you for being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah, I can't wait for our listeners tuning in right now to listen to your story. Again, Soul to Soul is a place where I love to bring people who are leaders and resilient, right? And to talk about things that maybe you've never talked about before. I think even within our Latino community, right? Like the love languages and what that looks like. Talking about topics that we've never talked about. So I'm so honored and I'm so thankful that you agreed to come on. And I know it's late. And I know you're tired.
It's okay. It's doing good. It's important.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a journey too, because we call it love language now, but when I was going through it, I didn't know it was a love language. I just thought it was way of life.
Yeah, exactly. And the same for me too. I didn't learn about the love languages till much later.
Yeah.
So, and for our listeners, I'm sure you guys have heard about the love languages, but we're going to talk a little bit more about, again, what it looks like within the Latina community. All right. Well, let's get ready to go on a little journey. We're going to explore Victor's story, his roots, his beginning, his family's story, and just how those experiences have shaped his life. So I want to just give you the space to get just really comfortable and share with our listeners, what was it like from, let's say, your parents immigrated from Mexico, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what was it like then from like ages 0 to 10 years old? Tell us what it was like for you growing up.
It's fragmented, to tell you the truth. I do remember certain things, but I think that I've come to tell myself that I think it's fragmented because of a lot of it has to do with trauma.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like the more I talk about it or the more I try to get into it, I'll start to realize or remember something that maybe it's been deep and hidden for a while.
That usually happens.
Yeah.
We talk about one thing and then all of a sudden it sparks up another memory and it opens up a whole nother thing. So So what was it like when you were little?
It was, very. Um, you had to grow up at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm an older brother of two.
Okay.
Two younger sisters.
So
They're
you're the
awesome.
oldest
I am the
brother.
oldest brother.
Okay.
Although from 0 to 10, I'm 11 years older than my second sibling. So for a long time, it was just my sister and I.
Mm.
Um, and actually, my mom lost a baby too.
Mm.
That one, it took me a long time to ask my mom about it,
Mm.
but because I always thought it was a dream. Yeah, like I remember, like I could always picture us like going to the hospital,
Yeah.
and I think it was the Kaiser in Baldwin Park,
Yes.
and getting dropped off and like rushing to my mom,
Mm.
but then it kind of always just ended there. And so then eventually I just asked, I was like, "Hey, is this a real memory? And why were we at the hospital?"
Mm-hmm.
And it was, my mom had a miscarriage.
Yeah, that's interesting. When did you find out? How many years later did you find out it wasn't a dream?
I I don't even know,
Yeah, it's
but but I think I just go back to like it's one of those things where it was little episodes of young life.
mm-hmm.
Uh, for whatever reason, I do remember a lot of when I was like in elementary.
Yeah, tell me about
Yeah,
those years. Who would take you to school?
the bus.
Okay.
It was first grade, and I had to learn how to get the bus, and
Where
my
were you
parents taught
living
me.
at that time?
At that time, we were living in El Monte,
Okay.
and then my favorite memory of taking the bus is there was one time when I don't know why, but I just felt like the bus driver wanted to take me on a longer drive.
Oh.
So like we went to drop off everybody else,
Uh-huh.
and we passed my stop, but I guess the bus driver that day didn't remember that was a stop. And so then it wasn't until we took everybody home, the person goes, "Where was your stop?" And I was like, "You didn't stop. I just waved at my mom as we were going by." So I was able to get us back home though, and remember.
I thought it was going to go somewhere else. Like, oh
I
gosh,
thought we were
where's.
gonna go back to the yard. Yeah, and
So little things like that would happen. So you're waving goodbye at your mom from the bus.
yeah, we lived close. It was
It's
like
cute.
2-3 blocks, but it was fine. It was good.
Yeah.
Thankfully, afterwards, when I got home, it was fine.
What kind of student were you?
Um, I had a little troublemaker,
You were.
but kind of because I was bored. Um, I've been good at adapting really quick.
Mm-hmm.
So I was good at math. I was good at reading, and I really want to do some extra stuff. And um, my mom would tell me that I would finish all of my work early, and then just and fast as I could, because then I could do whatever I wanted. But what ended up happening was then I would start helping my colleagues with their work so we could all play. And then the teacher would be like, "You have to stop that. They have to do it themselves."
Oh my gosh, Victor. I think that's so sweet. What a community builder you were even back then, right? You're like, I'm going to finish my work and then I'm going to go help my community.
Yeah, you have a
I
good
think
time.
that actually, I was like that too. I'd finish my work. I'm like, let's get it done and then we're going to go play,
Yeah, work.
right?
Yeah, work and then play.
Yeah, work hard and then play hard.
Yeah.
That's so awesome to hear. So, but you were a little rebellious? Yeah?
I don't know if it was rebellious. It was just like I had my my hard headedness, and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, and um,
I mean,
uh,
was it hard-headedness though? It just seems like you were doing the right thing, like what a normal child would do, right? Like I'm gonna finish my homework and then I'm gonna go out and play. That's pretty
yeah.
healthy.
Well, it was yeah, but I mean,
Your parents were strict?
my dad wanted to be strict.
Okay.
My mom's always been very sweet. Um, so my dad, he always taught me like very hard work ethic, which is
Tell me about
at the
that
time
growing up.
I didn't know that at the time.
Tell me in what ways your dad would teach you about like work ethic. Was he lovable? Like would he show you physical touch too and like
No,
words of affirmation like mijo, I love you and you're doing great? Or how would he show you?
I would say something that's even stuck with me now. He was more of like, hey, I'm not good with words, so I can't tell you, so I'm gonna show you. And so then if we were doing if he was doing yard work, then I was doing yard work with him. Whereas
Oh.
there's if I remember going to work with him multiple times, and we'd be working together, and um, that's also like been my mindset a lot of times, which is hard for with what I do now,
Mm-hmm.
because if I feel like now everybody wants you to tell them what you're doing, but like a lot of my mindset has been like I don't want to tell you, I'll show you, or even one of those things where it's like
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I don't want to tell anybody my plans until I'm done. Like, hey, I did it, and this is how it went. But like, I feel like sometimes it would lose value, or it wouldn't, or it was harder for me to get things done if I were to start telling people like preemptively, like this is what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was really, but everybody like when you're running for council or when you're doing something, they want to know like, well, what are you gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that like I've taken what my mom have taught me, and it's like my dad said, "Hey, did you have a roof? Did you have clothes? Did you have food?" Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then sometimes here, like it's like, "Hey, do we have a balanced budget? Like, do we are we safe? Are we getting to a point where we're safe? Are we working on plans?" Like, I think it's such a blessing. I think you and I were talking about the other day, like when when you're a kid, you're just thinking for the day,
Yes.
and it's wonderful. And it's sometimes it's like, okay, what am I gonna do today to play tomorrow? And then when as we start getting older, it's like we start to think about, hey, what am I gonna do the next year, 2 years, 3 years? In the lobby, you ask me what's it gonna look like in
10
ten
years.
years?
Yeah.
And it's just like I don't know. Put me on the spot on that
Hey,
one.
usually we ask 5 years, and this one I just kind of wanted to see
Yeah,
what
the
was there.
moments of reflection are great.
They are. Yeah. So from your father, you learned great work ethic.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
work ethic, and you know, um, there's things that I remember like when this one time when I had to sell candy. Everybody sells candy at school,
Yes.
and he'd get all shy, and he would just be like, he would take me to where there was people, and he said, "Go talk to them." And
Just
sometimes
throw
like
you out there, right?
use my speech like nerves again, and before like, yeah, you just get thrown out there.
Yeah.
And then there was also things of like when you're the eldest, when you're the one that is bilingual.
Mm.
Um, and I laughed at when I see memes that say, when you're also a translator at like 5. Yeah.
I know.
For,
Did you see the one where there's a little girl who's crying and she's like, "I'm sorry, I can't translate all these like legal
legal
paper,
bills.
all these legal
Yeah.
documents," and she's crying. And it's like that's a whole space that only us first gen people understand, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I enjoy it now, and my dad told me a long time ago, he goes, "You have to be bilingual. Watch, it's gonna be very successful for
Oh
you."
yeah.
And I was like, "Whatever, man." Like, but I'm blessed that I did do that. And it's something
Mm-hmm.
again that I didn't see when I was young, but now as I'm older, I'm like, oh man, I can communicate with so many people because of it. And you know how there's like this one thing that I really like. You know how sometimes when people grow up with one dominant language,
Yes.
they're translating it in their heads.
Yes. The code switch.
Yeah, I don't feel that with English or Spanish. Like English comes in, English comes out, and Spanish comes in, Spanish comes out. It's not like I'll hear English, translate it to Spanish, and then say it like it. So
Well, okay then, Victor. That's amazing. What? I'm looking at you like, oh, you don't have to translate? And
no,
then
I
that's,
mean there are times where I'll get stuck, right? Like
oh, your brain works.
helicóptero, and I was like, oh, helicopter, helicopter. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really good. You know what? I think when I started working and practicing therapy, and I was like, oh, extra pay for bilingual, right? And I'm like, I never imagined, that my bilingual speaking would come in handy so much. And, it does. Because I practice and I see patients who are Spanish
Do you
speaking.
do your practice in Spanish also?
Oh, yeah, I practice in Spanish.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have my patients who are all Spanish speaking. Y lo hago todo en español, sí, todos los diagnósticos y todo en español. But I also, do all my English patients too.
That's
And
great.
it's wonderful because there's such a need in our Latina community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even just from relatability, but also even just people that are dominant in Spanish to want to say, I need therapy.
That part, because it comes out different. It feels safer for a lot of people to just speak in their first language and their dominant language. So, oh yeah, huge difference. So, anyways, I want to get back to your parents.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. You were talking about your mom. She's very sweet. Your dad taught you work ethic, but he was a little bit more strict, though. I want to go into like your high school years, right? When things got a little, you didn't really like how you were being treated. Maybe it
Well,
wasn't too fair.
I mean, I think it was, it, like I said, even as a kid, as a young kid, I felt like I was already maturing older enough and faster. Like I had my first car at 12.
How do you get your first car at 12?
Well, when you're undocumented, you're just driving.
Did
If you
you,
need to drive,
were
you
you
drive.
driving at 12 and 13 then?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Victor. Yeah,
I had, had some odd jobs at 12
yeah.
um and then I think just it's just kind of a natural way of things, right? You know,
Mm.
for only freshmen driving to school took us, and then
You had to grow up very fast.
yeah, and then I think by like 15 I was already paying rent. And so it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I don't mind, like I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm doing it, then like if I'm expected to be an adult, then I want to be treated and respected that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And how did that go in a Latino household?
Uh, I would say for the most part it was okay. It just got to the point though where it was like, um, and maybe selfishness or just I don't know, trying to figure stuff out. It was something like, hey, well, if I'm contributing, then some of the other stuff like isn't really my responsibility anymore. It's more of a to your house. It's you take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think like when my dad and I started to have some hardships, where when I felt that like he would treat us differently than he would friends.
Oh, that part.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say like he was a really good friend to people, like amazing friend to people. But then he'd come in and like treat us completely different. I think I remember even like, there's times when I had to borrow money or my sister had to borrow money and he dreaded it. Like I would dreaded it. I did not want to because he'd be honest, like, hey, where's my money? Here's my money. And I remember hearing the story once where he lent my cousin money and then I was like, I think I asked him like, "Hey, did he pay you back?" And he goes like, "Oh no, I just told him just to forget about it." And I was like, "What do you mean to forget about it? Like,
Mm.
yeah, you would have you would have hounded me to the
Yeah.
point, yeah."
Yeah. You saw some inconsistencies with how he treated others, friends, and then
Which
the
is weird because like I wanted that treatment,
of
but
course.
I'm also okay with it because now I'm like I'm on my finances.
He made you who you are, right? With
Yeah,
being on top, with that work ethic. I think our parents do the very best that they can, right? With what they've had, because I bet if you hear his story, he probably had a really messed up something too. And then his grandfather probably too, right?
yeah,
And then their grandparents were probably really messed up as well. And so I think when you put it that way, it's easier for us to have like empathy,
yeah.
and more understanding.
My wife and I went through like wedding classes before we got
Yeah.
married.
Mm-hmm.
Those were hilarious and good.
They were hilarious.
Yeah.
They were good because they're eye opening. They really prepare you. But why were they hilarious?
Well, we didn't know what to expect, right?
Okay.
But like there was this couple
Yeah.
who was probably the most humble, like of the whole presentations and the whole teachings.
Yeah.
But they were like, my wife and I were like looking at each other. And we're like, okay, maybe they're saying it differently, but they know exactly their stuff. And a lot of it was about budgeting and financing and making sure that you communicate that well, so that you're not creating problems later on. Like I can't just spend money and then later shows up on the credit card and it's like surprise.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's not free money.
No, it's not.
I know. I tell my teenage daughters, when they graduate and they're going into college and then all the credit cards start hounding them and sending them, to apply for credit. I'm like, be very careful with that, youngsters, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's cool. So you take the good that you learned
I
from
remember
your father.
from my father and then my mom as well, and then again just some of those experiences, like talking about again like growing up at an early age. I remember, my mom was the youngest of all of her siblings,
Hmm.
and her dad had on my mom's side, my grandpa's passed away. He had a stroke. My grandma was murdered, and it was, it was before I was. It was like when I was still a baby, so I
Yeah.
didn't really know any of it. But I
Mm.
know it affected her, and then I started asking her about it later. And then I remember this one time for Thanksgiving, um, my aunt was and and the family was where they were on their way to where everybody was gathering, and the phone rang, and there must have been 25 family members there.
Hmm.
But me as the 8-year old, they had me like answer the phone because I was the only one that could understand English, and they told me a random name. Well, it wasn't a random name, but it was a name I didn't recognize.
Hmm.
And they're like, "There's been a car accident, and this person has passed away, and um, these people are in the hospital." And I recognized the people; they were my cousins, but the other name I didn't know. So I looked at everybody, and the adults were like standing around me, and I told them, and they were just like, "No." They were in disbelief, like you must have heard it differently. And I was like, "Well, let me ask again." And as I said it again, so coming to find out, it was my aunt. But my aunt for a long time didn't like her birth name, and so she called herself. They called her Lolita.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and then so those were some of the things where,
Oh my
like thinking back
gosh.
now, I was like,
That's
I don't like I didn't capture that moment.
You didn't.
Well, and I
You
couldn't have. I was a
you
kid.
you were on the go. You just had to perform.
Yeah,
That's sad. Right? Like we were but it was so shocking. You got the news of the death and then you, the little kid, has to relate it to the adults.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
and it did feel like a job. Like I felt like I told it to them,
sure.
and then like okay, some of them were crying, but then I just went off to play.
Yeah. That was your job. That was your role that
Yeah,
they had. Wow. And I bet there's so many stories like this out there of having to translate.
I'm getting better at it too. Like asking people about
Mm-hmm.
stories. Like so now, like I've asked my mom. Like once I found out I know my grandma was murdered forever, but I never knew the stories and I never asked. And then I just started asking.
I like that you're bringing this up, Victor, because that's what happens a lot in the Latino culture. I mean, we just discovered what happened with Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta and why it's important to speak up about these things. And a lot of these things happen where a lot of the times in the home with the uncles, with the coaches. I mean,
Yeah,
I
way far too often. It's terrible.
right of not being able to again talk about things, right, that need to be talked about. So I think the fact that you're having these conversations now, like with your mom, and saying, "Hey, what happened with like my grandma? What was she murdered? Why was she murdered?" It's good. We have to have these conversations because I think for a long time it's like we just don't talk about anything.
That actually happened with one of my uncles. And I didn't know because I just kept asking. And so like I'll use the story of my grandma as the example.
Yes.
So they were living in Tecate, Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom is the youngest of eight. Well, and then two stepbrothers.
Mm-hmm.
But the apartments that they were living in, the landlord or the manager told her, "Hey, stop having kids because I don't want your kids here in the apartments. Like you have so many kids." And she got mad that I think she was, she still had her 8 kids. And so what happened is that my grandma used to hang the wet clothes on some cables,
Mm-hmm.
but the power was always off. And so the manager had her husband turn the electrical power on and murdered my grandma. And um,
Jeez.
then that's all my mom told me. And then I asked her older brother separately at a different space once, and I said, "Hey, my mom told me this story.
Yeah.
Um, how did it affect you, and what did you think about it?" And he goes, "I was holding on to your grandma when that happened." And I was like, "Whoa, how are you alive?" And he said, "Well, he said my brother pushed me off." And he goes, "All three of us almost got stuck." And as we were going through the conversation, and my other older cousin, who knew the story a little bit more than I did,
Mm.
she looks at me, she goes, "He's never talked about this." And I could tell that he had never talked about it. Like it got to the point where like I think all three of us were crying. And I was just like, wow, how did he handle this? Because he ended up like being very studious
Mm.
and being the first one to graduate from college, stuff like that. But he had to like remove himself from the space.
Yeah.
And
It
yeah,
it sounds like in that moment you guys I'm so glad you guys had that moment where you
yeah,
guys were able to talk and get it out of your systems and like cry. Um that's a lot of trauma, you know? And it's very layered, you know, because you see a lot of the first gen stuff and then we don't talk about stuff either, right? That comes
yeah.
from our parents.
I think that like every time you talk about a story, especially a traumatic story or just a story, you gain something from it each time, and especially when you're sharing it with someone,
Absolutely.
because they might see something in your story that you didn't catch the first time,
Hmm.
or say, "Hey, you know what? Like maybe that's the reason why I do this or that," and then
Right.
it's impactful at different points.
I agree. That's why I like talking about, like, like your childhood or what was the struggle, because I mean, we're all human and we all struggle, right? We all have something that we are dealing with, and it feels good to feel like we're not alone, right? Like we have community and there's other people that have gone through things and have overcome. So, um, in regards to there is to our listeners, there is an article by my colleague Cristina Castellon that she did. It's on the 5 love languages. She's on Instagram under Cultivate Calm. But I really love, and did you get a chance to kind of read through them
I
a little
skimmed it a
bit?
little bit. Yeah,
How she describes how the 5 love languages look different within our Latina community, right? Especially like when you look at words of affirmation and physical touch, we don't, I mean, it wasn't a lot of words of affirmation, right? Or sometimes even for men, like physical touch from their men, it's like, no, right? Eres hombrecito. Like, it was very kind of like toughen up. So, not a lot of physical touch. I think one of the love languages is also gift giving. I think for a lot of people who immigrated from Mexico, right? Very low income jobs, a lot more limited income, limited resources, that a lot of the time the gift giving was more like very, very like humble amounts or maybe handmade stuff or hand me downs, right? Um, what did, when you look back now, what was your dad's love language for you that really stands out?
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. It's um, I was fed. There's a roof over my head, um, and like he gave me opportunity to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like I was put in strenuous situations. Whether I liked it or not at the time, it was just sometimes it was just like figure it out.
So let's go back a little bit though, because you did leave your house at one point, right?
Yeah, I did.
Like at 17. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because then there's a happy ending.
Um, yeah, you know what? I'm trying to figure out the buildup, and I think all of that was the buildup, like the responsibilities of being at home. And I remember this one time, like, because it's crazy now, like just thinking about rent, because my rent at the time was $500.
Oh yeah, I remember back then it was like $658 a month. I remember the exact amount. Oh dang. Way back then.
But even then, like it was $500 a month,
Yeah.
and I was paying the internet, and I'm thinking I was paying another bill, and we had his friend's family that was living in the garage, who was also paying 500, but wasn't paying any of the extra bills.
Oh.
And my dad comes up to me at one point and he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna raise the rent on you." And I said, "No, you're not."
I don't think so, buddy.
I said, if you're gonna raise the rent on me, you better be telling me that you're gonna raise the rent
On them.
on them.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oh, Victor.
and I remember him telling me, he's like, "Well, it's because he's going through a lot." And I'm all, "Yeah, that means that like," which I don't know. I feel bad thinking about like how, I don't know. It was,
You were advocating for
I
yourself.
was
and you
advocating
were
for
doing the right
myself
thing.
without trying to put somebody down though.
Sure.
And but I told him, I mean, like I was like, "Hey, it's him, his wife, and their two kids." And if I remember correctly, he had his work permit, and so they were both working. And I just felt like at the time I was just like, "How are you gonna ask more from me
Yeah.
when they're spending more water, and they have their own kitchen, their own like." So I don't know. It was all pent up, and the crazy part about it was that when we finally kind of like blew up,
Yeah.
was he came into my bedroom wanting to watch a movie when I was spending like doing whatever it is I was doing, and so I was like, okay, I have to stop what I'm doing to work because now I'm gonna have to translate this movie to him.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, I don't want to do this. And he's like, well, you're gonna translate, and I was like, hell, I am. And over translating for a movie, we ended up face to face. And my mom gets in between, and I was like, you know what? Why am I here?
And that's when you left.
I'm out of here. Like I'll just remove myself from this conversation. And I was walking down the street, and my mom drives up, and I just told her, I was like, hey, no hard feelings, but just let me go. Like, just let me go. And I remember I slept on some friends' couches, and I'm very, very, very. I've got a couple of moms.
Yeah.
When I first met my wife and I were dating, it was like, oh, let me introduce you to my wife. Let me introduce you to my mom. Let me introduce you to my mom. And she goes, how many moms do you have? And I said, like 9 of them. It took like 9 moms to raise me, and I appreciate them all.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome.
And they were all my best friend's moms, and we couch surfed for a little bit, and then that's when I met your aunt.
Yeah, my aunt, my Tia Martha. Hey, Tia Martha.
Hey.
Shout out to you. I hope she's listening. She was so excited to listen to you. Come on. But yeah, my Tia Martha and my Tio Crisanto they know you pretty well.
I call them mom and dad. Yeah.
They're like your mom and dad. Yeah.
Irene and I, their daughter.
That's my cousin.
We were going to school together and knew each other very well. And she's my best friend.
They're amazing.
Always, yeah.
I love my family. See, my Tio Crisanto, that's my dad's brother. And so when I see my Tio Crisanto, I always get emotional and I want to hug him. And I feel like I'm looking at my dad because my dad's passed, So they look alike a lot. So it's just, it was so nice. Like the last time you sent me that.
I love giving them big hugs.
Oh, I love that. I love them. I'm so glad that you go around them and you guys keep in touch. So So you did a lot of the couch surfing, right? And you were
Yeah.
okay. What happens though
Well,
to where you and your dad, he makes up.
yeah. So I mean,
He
I
recognizes his behavior wasn't all so wonderful, and he makes up when you get diagnosed.
yeah. So then that was end of high school, and then I take off for a while, and I like telling the story about I actually really do like telling the story about when I got diagnosed with cancer
Yeah, tell us.
because um, I was over in Vegas and I went to like a large hospital in Vegas and I said, hey, like I need to find out what's going on, and they were like, oh, it's just an infection, kind of like just shoved it off. I thought it was strange, but I was like, no, it's not this. And the reason I like telling the story is because when I came to the free clinic over at Pomona East Valley Medical Center, um, I felt like that doctor, and I remember about how I forget her name all the time, but she's now I just see her as my angel. She was my angel. She's
Oh,
the one who saved my life. She's like, I think I know what it is, but I still need to go get you a test. And so I go get a test. She calls me. She goes, "Yep, you have cancer. You need to go to LAUSC today." And I had testicular cancer. I go to LAUSC, and um, she shows up while I'm there, and I'm like, "What are you doing here? Like, it's a free clinic. Like, you're not getting paid for this." And like, really true service right there.
mm,
And but I end up having two surgeries, months of chemo, lost all my hair, and as far as my dad and I, like, I was able to pause for a bit, kind of like we guess when we did during COVID, and just reflect.
yeah.
And um, I remember just like waking up one day and my dad was there, and I was like, "What are you doing here? Like, you don't like me?"
Oh, you
And
don't like me. You want to charge me extra, Dad.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's true.
but yeah, but then he was there and he
So
realized,
then afterwards it was like, all right, well, if you're here, I'm gonna start asking you questions, and we just start asking questions, and we just start like connecting. I mean,
hmm,
his love language was time.
was
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
he was like, I'm gonna
Where,
be here.
and time is such a, it's such a valuable thing, right? And I think when you look at if they have to work and the sacrifice, that time was a lot. And it didn't matter to him at that point. He was going to give all that time to his son.
Yeah, he had his free time. He was there.
Yeah, so that was beautiful.
It meant a lot,
Uh
and
huh.
yeah, I was able, like I said, I was able to start asking questions.
Did that bring a lot of healing to you and to the relationship between you and your father?
It really, I think that's when I hit, like when that thought came to my head is about being in other people's shoes and really starting to ask those questions like, all right, if you and I didn't get along when we were young, why? Like, what did your dad
Yeah,
teach you? What did
yeah.
his dad teach him? And so then I started asking him these questions, um and then I would tell him, I said, why are you a great friend but you annoy me as a father?
Yeah,
Like, and it was kind of like shocking, right? Like,
yeah. It was the revelations to him too,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Good. But see, I think this is so great. I think for our listeners who are tuning in, because just how you said, if we just started talking, I started asking him questions. I think this is how we start having these conversations where we know things and we might assume, but why don't we ask?
Yeah.
Within families, it's like, what have you asked? It's
What
just like silent rule, a silent agreement.
I think it also started to build my curiosity over storytelling.
Mm,
Like, hey, tell me your story. If
yeah.
if we're gonna agree, great. If we don't agree, okay, but tell me why. What's going on? And then another like, and each thing kept adding to it, right? Like I remember seeing this thing on Twitter at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it said like, it gave me a number, but the number didn't really matter. It was the substance. It said a certain percentage of people would not commit suicide that day had somebody just waved or said hello to them. And so then like I just took it upon myself to just start waving and saying hello to people. Like,
I like that you say that. Because again, suicide is really up, right? And I think it is really important because there's people right now who are on the verge of just wanting to end it all or planning, right? And
mm-hmm.
so it is really important to be mindful. Like when we see people, understand like everybody's going through something. A smile goes a long way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I love that.
I
It's
was
a good
talking to
reminder.
Martha today about smiling.
The what?
I was talking to your Aunt Martha today about smiling.
Really? I was on a podcast recently where I share my story, and I'm actually a suicide attempt survivor. Yeah, and I talk about that. Anyways, I don't want to go off. I don't want to go off track, but
Another day.
yeah,
Tell me
another
another
day,
day.
another day.
Thank you for even. Yeah.
Back to what we were talking about because I totally
No, it's
lost
tough. Storytelling
the
and
smiling,
smiling,
right?
it's
Because
the little things, the
exactly.
acknowledgement.
That acknowledgement, I remember that time is that next day, right? Waking up and seeing someone and somebody just really noticing me and smiling
Yeah.
at me. And that was all I needed to say, you know what? It wasn't that bad. I'm okay. It's amazing what a smile does.
Oh, like we're so essential to our circles. It's important.
Well, community.
You know,
We heal in community.
the as I got better at being a storyteller or to hearing stories,
Mm-hmm.
I also got better at listening. I felt like listening was always really amazing, and um, I don't know how to like. I was telling this really good cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
He came through an organization with partnered with UCLA
Mm-hmm.
to do some storytelling in Pomona,
Yeah.
and then he and I were having conversations, and I was just told him I was like, I don't know why or how. I just feel like I connect with people really well, and so we have some very good successful things. And he kind of just looked at me. He goes like, "You really don't know?" I'm like, "No, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to verbally express it or say it. Um, maybe it like, but when I do try, I guess what I can say is that like I do genuinely care for people, and when we have conversations and when they tell me, I mean,
Well, that's what it is, Victor. It's your presence, and people can feel when people are genuine
mm,
or not. Whether you have the skills or whatever, it's funny because I'm going to come up with the training on that. Because even clinicians, I think, when they're in the therapy room, if you're not fully present with your whole heart, I think like patients feel it. You know what I mean? And you're
yeah,
talking about being fully present and being genuine and really listening.
w-
So, yeah,
like my wife has
that's a natural talent.
when in our work days where like she's not working and I'm technically working as my council member duties, but like I'll get phone calls from every spectrum, and she'll just say like, "How do you handle this?"
You should be a therapist. You should have been a. Now, I mean, you are just people are just drawn to you. They open up easily to you, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a gift. I mean, that's why you're in the position that you're in, right?
Yeah,
I want you to. I want to switch gears a little bit,
sure.
right? On the community work. How did you get into becoming a leader in Pomona?
Um, yeah, being a leader.
Why do you?
I don't know. It just goes back to that thing. Like it's my me not being able to like call myself that. I appreciate when people say that.
Mhm.
Um, but my friend told me she goes it's because it's not for you to say it. It's for
It's for others to say it.
yeah.
Yeah, don't call. Yeah, yeah. I'm calling you a leader,
I appreciate you.
but you're a community builder.
Um, but actually, I think that's part of the connection is that like for the community, they're my leaders. They're
Hmm.
my heroes. I call them the moms.
Hmm.
They're my connection because
Yeah.
I I tell people when I had my cancer, I was physically healed maybe like after a year, right? When I was 20.
Yeah.
And then I really dove into work, and I was just working to the point where I can't even really tell you what my early 20s were like, other than I wanted to ascend work. And I did right away, and I got really good at it. But then after like a while, I was just like, well, what am I doing with it?
Mm.
And so then to have myself spiritually heal and mentally heal, um, which is funny because it's like right around the time the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey came out.
Mm.
And I was just like, I was doing it and I saw the movie and I was like, this is strange. But that's exactly what I did. I just started saying yes to things.
Yeah.
And, there was
One door opened, and then
yeah,
that door led to something else,
there was a
right?
friend who wanted to start a running group in the city. And I said, yeah, I'm not a runner, but yeah, let's go. And then we got to running and they were like, hey, well, they want our presence over here. Are you available? Yeah, I'll go over there. And so then I started volunteering. And that one, oh man, we did this event. My best friend died before he was 21,
I'm sorry.
a month before he was 21. And it was crazy because we just went to sleep. And it was inconclusive on his death. But it was Miss Ethel Gardner, who runs a program in Pomona, and it was the first event that I tabled at. Um, she talks a lot about loss and how she lost her son.
Mm.
And that day, I still remember. I wrote my friend's name on a balloon, and we let the balloons go. And I
Oh,
was just like, oh man. So then I got to meet other people and other nonprofits,
that's cool.
and I was like, service, like this is what I want to do. My communal impact.
Yeah.
How can I really impact those around me?
Mm-hmm.
Like if my dad has helped me with my grit and putting me in difficult situations, then I want to purposely put myself in a difficult situation in the city and see how I can help.
Wow.
And
That's just very admirable. I
uh,
love the work you do. I see everything that you post, and I think why I love what you do is because that's my hometown.
uh,
I grew up in Pomona, and so when I see all of these cool things going up, or like these community groups, it brings so much joy to me.
yeah,
Helping out parents with food insecurity. I was reading on the Los Angeles Times. There's a farm, urban farm, I believe,
Lopez
from
Urban Farm.
Lopez Urban Farm from Pomona, and how
Yeah.
they're planting their own food and then feeding people with food insecurity. It just makes my heart very happy.
So
It's amazing.
I was on that board as it was starting off.
Really?
Yeah, and
So you help,
yeah.
right? I think, yeah, I know we're going to have like 6 minutes left, but that's kind of what you do. You help people kind of get their nonprofits going in Pomona, right? So we could have good things happening in Pomona.
Well,
What else do you do?
Well, now that I became a council member, and
Mm-hmm.
when I first got told to be a council member, I said no thanks. I don't even know what they do. And like
What happened to Yes Man?
how has government helped me?
Just kidding.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
No, it really it was true.
Okay,
It,
but you were changing. Yes Man was changing.
I think it was different. It was volunteering,
Okay.
and this is hey, here's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like oh man, but once I looked into it, it turned into a yes.
Yeah. And look at you.
And yeah, and I think that the city council really showed me how to be a person like everybody up there is kind of like a gatekeeper.
Uh-huh.
Our decisions, we make decisions we make,
Yes.
and so I wanted to just open up those gates as best as I could,
Mm-hmm.
and then as I learned the process is how can I bring more people into it and make it accessible.
Right.
Yeah, and
I
so
love that.
that's how I've been helping. Actually, so much so that like I grabbed my best friends now, and we just started our nonprofit called Collective Acción.
Collective Acción,
Yeah,
right?
which
Yeah.
will
Tell us about our listeners about it and how they can get involved, or.
well, it's going to be very much of a background type of organization and helping and supporting structure.
Yeah.
If someone wants to know the process, or here you just started your nonprofit, here's some to dos and here's some not to do, some tips.
You are the man to
Yeah,
contact.
how can we best help
Yeah.
out? I get that a lot from some people. I like they'll be like, "Hey, I was told to call, like, talk to
Is that why you
you."
laughed at me? You're like, don't say that.
No, like, I
I'm already thinking of a few
like, I
people.
like it and it
Yeah.
works, and it's we just have a very good built-in network that
That's great.
we've been able to put together.
Yeah, I love that. Um, yeah, I want to talk about very, very briefly. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know
Alright.
this has been a heavy topic, but I know that you have seen the impact that the
Mm.
ICE raids have had in our communities, especially like in the city of Pomona. What is it that you have seen, and what would you recommend to like our community at this time?
Man.
I know, I'm sure you've seen so many sad situations. I could already see it.
Yeah, and it's all flowing through my head.
Yeah.
Um, my recommendations is to continue to, reach out to your network. Even if you're at home, there's some good organizations, very good organizations in the area that are doing like Know Your Rights online that you can look at, or get
Mm-hmm.
yourself a card, or if you have kids, for example, there's people willing, like I myself have given rides to kids to school,
Mm-hmm.
um, and also just to start to have conversation. Um, we were delivering people directly to people's houses,
Mm-hmm.
food directly to their houses, just because um,
Yeah,
it was safe.
sure.
Um, we opened up an office where like that's where we get food out of. Um, and I actually think that like two things. I think one, it's gonna get worse. Um,
Mm.
I mean, like you just saw that ICE is now at airports. Um, and it's because you don't just give. Their budget went from like 19 billion to like 120 billion. So you don't just give an organization over another 100 billion and don't use it.
Right.
And they're using it for many different things, like buying warehouses that they're going to turn into prisons type. And cities like Pomona, thankfully, are like we're doing our best to pass zoning or things to block it off as best as we can. They might ignore it, but at
Right.
least we have a standing on saying we push to be against that.
Right.
And then the city, um, I appreciate them for starting a compassion fund where
Mm.
we were able to raise $250,000 for families that were affected by ICE.
Oh, that's great.
Some families and businesses.
Uh-huh.
We're trying to see
What can
what
be
is it that we
done?
can that can be
Mm-hmm.
done, and locally, um, that's we want to try to make sure to have every protection as possible because we truly believe that everybody's welcome into
Mm-hmm.
the city of Pomona.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, it's been tough.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it. In the work I do too, I see a lot of how people are being impacted, and there's a lot of fear. There's so much fear, and I think it's just really important for our community members to stay close to the people that love you, that love us, and move. We don't want to get stuck in fight or flight or freeze mode, because in times like these, like everything can sound chaotic and we can just freeze and not know what to do. And our nervous system gets dysregulated in our bodies. And so moving is super important during this
One
time.
of the things that we've talked about is the best way to sometimes combat fear is through speaking about it.
Yeah.
And the more knowledge you have, so by knowing your rights, and but also our future generation, one of the things that we talk about all the time is like you don't have a lot of youth that votes, and it's because as the Latin community, like what it doesn't do is it doesn't
Prepare.
speak to them about their hardships, and that's why some of them might not have a hardship, or some of
Oh,
them like
what a
so
great point.
so
Say
I,
that again.
so like we don't tell our hardships to our kids because it's traumatic, but we have to tell it to them because it needs to teach them of a roadmap that we don't want them to go into again.
Well, and we're breaking those cycles of like, calladita te ves más bonita,
Yeah.
or like, shh, we
But
don't air our dirty laundry, but that dirty laundry could be like
but if
really bad.
it's something traumatic,
Yeah.
and you mentioned Dolores earlier, if you don't speak on it, then there will potentially be another victim that then won't speak on it. Then be another victim that potentially won't speak. I
Yeah.
mean, the numbers of sexual assault
Oh,
abuse in the community are terribly
it's
high, and
disgustingly high. I know.
I like with that whole thing, like there's different levels of anger for me and
Sure.
sadness, and it's just like, man,
But again, I think it goes back to talking about it.
yeah.
So I think I want to encourage our listeners. Thank you
Sometimes
for.
I tell moms like, you take your kid to vote and register them to vote, and if they say, well, I don't want to, like, tell them I don't care. They're like, your vote is truly your voice.
You know.
Like, take them there if you have to drag them there.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good way to, I think, wrap up the show. A message for the young people is get out and
Vote.
vote, and for parents, teach them. Right. I was telling you a story. I don't know who I was telling a story with Angelina, where I think she helps prepare at a church the Hispanic people that are becoming U.S. citizens, right? And so they're prepping them and they're helping
Good.
them to get them out to vote.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think everybody has a role to play, right? To get the word out, or start talking about trauma, or smile at someone who maybe looks really, really sad.
I think in our community, if we were to join together, support each other, there's enough for all of us. We could all rise together. We could be so powerful and so strengthful. It's when the unspoken stories, the things, envy is very weird
Oh,
in our community.
oh
Like
God.
it drags people down, and so like that
But
was,
even that, we need to talk about that and call it out.
yeah.
But that like envy and competitive stuff, like because there's so much room and space for a lot, but those types of energies will keep communities down.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Anything else before we end?
I just appreciate you. It's cool to see you like um in your world, and I cheer you on.
Oh,
So
Victor, thank you.
so thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you.
I just want to say thank you, for being so vulnerable and sharing parts of your story that I know you probably haven't shared before.
One, we have more. I know that you and I could talk for hours, and
Oh,
maybe on a different day.
oh yeah, we can have some philosophical talks about this, and oh yeah, we could talk forever. I'm very proud of you. I'm cheering you on too because you're in my hometown, and thanks for checking on my mama too. My mom lives in Pomona too, and so
She's super sweet.
yeah, thank you for checking in on her. My mama was going through some depression at one point, and so it's nice that you are in the city. So, listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. It was so wonderful. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to Soul on YouTube. And thank you guys and have a wonderful, wonderful night.